Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody, to Cream of the Crop, a fantasy hockey podcast presented by Apples and Ginos. I'm your host, Blake Creamer. Please give me a follow over on Twitter/X at Blake Creamer AG. I'm bringing the tweet heat, and I'm doing it on the regular, and it feels good. While I got you here, Apples and Ginos does have an amazing fantasy hockey draft guide. I got to get this plug in here. It's available for a standalone purchase on the Apples and Ginos Patreon. So get your biscuits over there. If you like winning, you want this document. All right, we're going to help you crush in fantasy this year. It's what we do, but that's not why you're here. You're here today because we have an epic battle brewing, a repeat battle. I've got a friend of the show here joining me today, managing editor and senior writer at Daily Faceoff, Matt Larkin. Oh, you put me through my paces last time, Matt, and I'm still licking my wounds, but I feel ready for this battle here. How you doing?
I'm good, Blake, and I got to tell you, buddy, I've been training. I've been in dingy basements all summer long, studying ADPs, getting ready for this moment, this battle right now.
Oh man, I hate to hear this. All right, this is terrible. This reminds me of Rocky 3. Have you ever seen Rocky 3? Yeah, you're Clubber Lang. All right, but the first Clubber Lang, and I'm Rocky, like the really unconfident, insecure one. Yeah, I think that's probably the way this is going to play out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, it's funny. You read my mind. As I was saying it, I was thinking just like Clubber Lang. So yes,
Exactly.
I'm hoping to be first half Clubber Lang, the Clubber Lang that beats Rocky on the night of Mickey's death, and hopefully not end of movie Clubber Lang, who gets taken to school by the speedier 190-pound Rocky.
That's right. He learned how to skip rope. All right. Now I haven't trained any ADP stuff, but I have been skipping rope. So that's the level of training I bring to this situation. I'm digressing here, Matt. This is terrible already off the bat, buddy. Hockey's so back, isn't it? I mean, I saw lots of NHL news this morning on Twitter. It's firing me up. And you've released your 300 players over there on Daily Faceoff, which is an amazing document. So definitely check that out on dailyfaceoff.com if you haven't. But how's your offseason been and kind of what's been going on for you while you get prepared for the season here?
Well, it hasn't been as busy as your typical summer. No weddings for me, but a lot of flood cleanup. If anybody's listening that's in the Toronto area, especially south of Etobicoke, dealing with flood galore. But working my way through that and the damage, and did manage to get to Vegas last week for the NHL Player Media Tour, where I did, I think, 35 interviews. It was a blur. I don't even remember at this point.
Oh man, that's amazing. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. What's that like, the availability tour there? Like, what are some of the players you talked to, and did you glean anything fantasy wise that you can share?
I did, and I do think it's a special opportunity every year because you get every player in a more intimate setting. It's you in a room with maybe 3 or 4 other reporters, and you're basically interviewing the best player from each team or one of the best players from each team, and they kind of come in one by one. They sit with you for 20 minutes at a time, and you kind of go back and forth, talk about different things, have a cup of coffee. So the vibe is great. I think it's very different than when you get in the regular season. And yes, you do get a few fantasy nuggets. I'll give you one example. Talking to Nathan McKinnon about Gabriel Landeskog and Valeri Nichushkin, and McKinnon just slips in the fact that Lecky, by the way, aka Arturi Lekkinen, is not going to be ready for the start of the season, and we're all thinking, oh, I don't think that was out there yet. And eventually, because of that, the Avalanche confirmed, yes, that he won't be ready to start the season after shoulder surgery. So you do get little nuggets here and there that are fantasy relevant, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny to me when players break the news, then they're like, oh, whoops, but I mean, something's got to slip here now and then, but I love that stuff. And it just gets me super primed up for the season here. Like, again, all this news that's coming out today, really into it. But buddy, we got to do battle here. All right. We got to get the biz. Yeah. Oh, if you can't watch, you definitely got to get on YouTube here. I've got a string here of ADP battle guests, just insanely handsome men. And what the hell, like, you got to get on YouTube. You got to check this guy out. Just probably the best hair in the biz, Matt. Don't be modest. Like, is that accurate?
Well, I mean, if I have a trademark in the biz, I guess it would be hair. But I do have a certain, hair rival. We don't really know each other, but Mr. Kyle out there at Sportsnet has some great hair as well. And he's got a great opportunity now with Elliot Friedman joining that podcast. So,
oh yeah.
Kyle, he's the hair master too.
I'm going to have to check that out because, yeah, obviously I'm interested. I'm just trying to live vicariously through, my brothers here that have a beautiful head of hair because, yeah, as a 44-year-old man, things are going south real quick, Matt. Anyways, we don't need to talk about that. We're talking about battle. We're going to do battle. And last time Matt was here, he showed no mercy and it was very hurtful. All right. But I fully recovered, as I said, from that beating. I'm ready for another one. I'll give you the format here. We're going to be looking at two players with a similar average draft position in Yahoo and deciding who we're going to pick and why. And for the scoring format here, Matt, I thought we'd just do a points league with, minimal point value for hits and blocks and shots. So we'll throw some stuff in there just for anyone who's listening there. Nothing crazy, just your standard points league. No plus minus, nothing like that. You ready to do battle, Matt?
I am so ready. And by ready, I mean my hands are shaking under the table. You just can't see.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'll give you my Mr. T prediction. Pain. Remember, that's clever. Okay, I don't know. That's a cool name too, Clever Lang. Anyways, let's move on. We're in round one, and we secured pick number 12, which is not everybody's favorite cup of tea here, but we're at the turn, and we're staring down Matthew Tkachuk or Artemi Panarin as our first pick for our fantasy team here. Which one of these studs are you going with, Matt?
Well, it's funny, Blake. I'm looking at my notes, and they don't exactly scream conviction when I say Panarin by a tiny bit. But we do have to factor in our proposed format here. And this is not a banger format based on the weighting that you've established at the beginning of the show here. And we know the Tkachuk boys are the combo meal kings. It was great to see Matthew's hit total come back up last year. But we're looking at a discrepancy of more than 30 points between these two players last year. So even if you accept, of course, there's going to be regression from Artemi Panarin. He's not going to get 120 points again. He broke through for a career high in his 30s. Still, even if he drops by 15 points, you still need to see Matthew jump up by 15, give or take, to catch him. And what really stood out to me with Panarin is you see the 49 goals, blew away his career high. And the assumption might be, oh my God, he had a high shooting percentage. That wasn't what happened. He actually shot the puck a lot more, generated a lot more scoring chances. So whatever's working on that line with Lexi Lafreniere, Vincent Trocheck, it seemed to have been sustainable, at least within the context of the season. So if Panarin keeps shooting the puck, the goal total should stay up. And I think he could still be at least a 95-point player, 100-point player. So I give him just a bit of an edge, even though I love Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, it's a close one. Obviously, you're going to be happy with either of these guys. I'm going to take Matt Tkachuk here, but I mean, I should probably take Panarin. I feel like the point ceiling is higher for Panarin. Nate and I actually just did a show talking about potential busts, and we wanted to do something fun and pick someone kind of in the early rounds for a bust as well, just to talk about it. Not that they are going to, but my pick was Panarin, and for those reasons that you mentioned, and I've still got a pretty dang healthy projection for him. I think he's like, I've got him for 113 points. I got Matthew Tkachuk for 97. So I'll give you my reasoning here, though. Like you mentioned, all those things that Artemi Panarin did in his 30s, like he upped his shots on goal per 60 to a ludicrous level that he's never done before in just one season. Obviously, like the goal total is insane. The power play points, insane. Time on ice, way up. There's just so many things there that could potentially be sustainable. Like this guy's elite. There's no question about that. Panarin is an amazing offensive player, but it should give you pause. And it does give me a little bit of pause. And he hasn't had 100 points before this. So last season, he had a great season, 92 points in 82 games, but yeah, smashed it this year by like 30 points. So I don't know. There's so many things too, like with Peter Laviolette there and his line mates, Trocheck and Lafreniere, you can see like, okay, something's clicking, and it clicked for the entire 82, right? So that should be sustainable to some degree, but I'm just concerned about the shot total with Panarin. I'm not sure that is sustainable because it's something so different. So I think I'll go with Tkachuk here, but I also think with Tkachuk, like his time on ice was reduced last season by a fair amount, which was an interesting choice, right? I think there's a chance that goes back up. He had a broken sternum. This guy, like he broke his sternum 2 years ago, and he came back into the lineup, didn't miss any time, but obviously, I think it affected him and his play. Like we remember Matt Tkachuk at the beginning of the season. I remember talking about him a lot as a buy low. Like, just stay the course, everybody. Matt Tkachuk's good to go. 18 points in the first 22 games, only 3 goals. Like, what the hell was this guy doing? So, long story short, I think there's a lot of regression for Matthew Tkachuk. And I do think, like, we've seen a ceiling on this guy, 109 points. He got it in his first year in Florida. So he's a 100-point player as well. I think Panarin's going to go down. I think Tkachuk's going to go up. And I like the peripheral floor with Tkachuk a little better. I think he's a little bit safer. So I'm going to go there, but you can't go wrong with either of these guys, can you, Matt?
Yeah, I think you're right. And for what it's worth, I do have them very close in my rankings, which is why they make for a great ADP battle. I have Panarin as my ninth player. I have Kachuk as my 11th. And I agree with you on both counts. To me, if I expected Panarin to be a 120-point player again, I would have him in my top five, but I don't. So I do think regression is in order. He's still going to be only awesome and not career best, not setting the second highest point total in Rangers history. And with Matthew Tkachuk as well, I agree. I think it's entirely possible he gets back to the century mark. And the Panthers, as you see happen so commonly with Stanley Cup champions, they don't look as deep this year. So I do think that they're going to have to lean on Tkachuk a little more. Ice time should come back up.
Yeah, that was an interesting piece with Kachuk last year. Like, obviously, the Barkov Reinhart line was just going bonkers and getting all the ice time. They're great in all three zones, no question. Kachuk's line was kind of a supplementary line. Like, it was a true second line last year. And this guy was coming off a 109-point season. So, yeah, it was just an interesting choice. Obviously, you can't even question it. They won the Stanley Cup. So, what the hell are we doing? But I think Kachuk's role, like you just said, well, that ice time should go back up. He's going to be just a bigger piece moving forward here. So, anyways, you're loving either of these players. I love Panarin too, except what the peripherals. Panarin, what are you doing, buddy? 18 hits in 82 games. He's an old dancing boy. Oh, he's just zipping out of the way. I mean, with his beautiful skating skills. I mean, lay into somebody, Panarin. What are you doing? I don't know. And actually, this all depends on if Panarin shaves his head or not going into the season, right? If it's a full head of lettuce there, I don't know. I think, we're definitely going Kachuk there. Am I right about that, Matt?
Yeah, I think bald Panarin is something special. And he's not too worried about the hit total. He's got Vinny Trocheck out there running guys.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. He's got the big hit total, right? So they're good. The line has the chemistry.
Yeah, he's just pointing guys out there. Lafreniere, too. He'll do that. So whatever. Anyways, shout out to those players. Let's move on. We got to talk about another two players here in round 3. And we're carrying on. I'm looking around pick 25 here, and we've got a couple of overachievers. Definite overachievers here, but still really valuable for fantasy. The Sex Panthers, Sammy Reinhart and Zach Hyman. Who are you taking out of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, this one is so close. I literally have them side by side in my rankings. I have Zach Hyman by a hair, but really the narrative around both is so similar. They're the regression boys. That would be their like rap duo name.
Yeah.
I think Sam Reinhart, he shot 24.5%. That is an impossible number to replicate, in my opinion. That would be the greatest shooting percentage in NHL history, I believe, even higher than Craig Simpson, who I think is the leader. I'd need to look that up. But I just think you have to price that in. And I do think it's possible Reinhart has established a new level. He found that chemistry with Barkov. He's settling in now as, I think, a permanent right winger, a great two-way player. So maybe we get 40 goals, 45 goals going forward from Reinhart. But I just think if you have to break a tie between the two, yes, Zach Hyman is older. And yes, he had a career-high shooting percentage as well. But you got to bet on the Edmonton Oilers wagon over the Panthers wagon, in my opinion. It's the best fantasy ecosystem there is. And I think Zach Hyman is more likely to sustain the really high goal total. So I lean slightly toward him, but again, literally side by side in my rankings. So I could see the argument both ways, especially because Reinhart is quite a bit younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always trying to find players that are similar with kind of similar profiles. And these guys kind of fit that bill here. Like you said, they're really close. For me, I'm taking Reinhart here, and I'll give you my reasoning there. But I mean, for both players, it's obvious regression is coming. Like you said, Sam Reinhart, 24%. Buddy, no. Who do you think you are? Andrei Kuzmenko? All right. 27% for Big Kuzi. All right. So that's your legend right there. But yeah, like 24%, no. He almost doubled his shooting percentage in one season. So that makes no sense. That's going to come down. But I do think that Reinhart really found his place, especially on the power play. Like Florida changed their power play last year in terms of how they were sort of prioritizing it. Like in 2022-23, it was a lot of shots from the point, right? And driving it back to the point. Whereas this year, they kind of overloaded one side, and it was Tkachuk, it was Barkov, and then at the end of every pass, Sam Reinhart. Like this guy popped for 27 power play goals. That's insane. I don't think 27 is coming his way, but I could see him getting 20. I could see him getting 20 power play goals again. And so I like Sam Reinhart's role on the power play better than I like Zach Hyman's role on a better power play in Edmonton. Like, just for reference to like Zach Hyman, his IPP on the power play, it's something crazy. Like it's like 40% or something. Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. 37% IPP on that wagon of a power play. And so everybody else is popping off and Hyman's just standing in front of the net, getting in front of the goalie, and like maybe a puck comes out and he taps it in. So I just like Sam Reinhart's goal, his role on that power play. I think that, he's due for a lot more points there. Whereas I think Hyman's kind of capped with the way they run that power play. And they're both going to regress. I've got Reinhart for 86 points and Hyman for 81. These guys are both massively valuable. And one thing I do want to say about Hyman, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Matt, is Hyman shows out in all of the scoring metrics that we look at. Like, this guy is ridiculous. 24th overall in the league in shots on goal per 60 and 5th overall amongst everybody in individual scoring chances for per 60. He does that. He gets an insane amount of scoring chances. So that said, I'm taking Reinhart. He gets more time on ice too. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I think they're really close. And I do think Hyman is such a smart player. He doesn't overcomplicate. And I think that's part of why he generates so many chances. He's always going to the highest danger parts of the ice. And when you're getting all your chances within 2 feet of the goaltender, you're going to score great in a lot of these chance generation metrics as well. And one thing I wanted to point out about Reinhart, to your point, Blake, last week, so I'll call back to the player media tour. Reinhart was talking about the fact that he has reinvented himself at every stop, and he's sort of had to have an adjustment period to adapt to the other stars around him. It's something he takes pride in. And I think that's why he's found his way on the power play. He's found his role where it works and how he functions in harmony with the other stars on the team. So it's not a fluke. It's a conscious decision he's made to reinvent himself.
Yep, I love that. And to me, Reinhart, too, is the better player in all 3 zones. So he's going to be out there more, right? Last minute of games, Reinhart's going to be out there getting some empty net goals. That does make a difference. You know what I mean? He's a great player. They're both great players, but I'm rolling with the Sex Panther here. 60% of the time, it works all the time. Am I right, Matt?
I think you're right. And I got to say, I'm not feeling overly confident about these first 2 battles. Like, you can make a case that you have the edge here, a couple 10-9 rounds.
Buddy, if I can't at least put a little bit of doubt in your mind, like, all this work I did this summer, what am I doing? I mean, this is what happens when you spend 10 hours a day thinking about fantasy hockey, Matt. All right. You put a seed of doubt into Matt Larkin, industry expert. And that's what I'm here for. I like that. All right, let's move on. We got to talk. We're in round 5 here, and we got a couple of. I think I said this last time we did a show, but I'm calling them again aging beefers. All right, we got Alex Ovechkin, goal scoring dynamo, and chicken necks Chris Kreider. Who are you taking out of Ovechkin and Kreider at pick 49? So we're in round 5, looking at pick 49.
Well, I'm going to be blatantly contradictory here. Okay, so if you look at Chris Kreider, 33 years old. And if you look at the aging curve of power forwards, I would define Chris Kreider as a power forward. You often see players like that fall off a cliff around that age, whether it's Wayne Simmons, David Backes, players like that, even Jamie Benn. He's reinvented himself, but I think he had a big drop off in production around the same age. It's very common. So I'm gonna stay with me. I'm gonna land the plane on this one. Okay, I'm gonna grade Chris Kreider on a normal human aging curve and expect him to continue regressing slightly. I don't think he's going to be a 50-goal guy again. I think he's going to be a 35-goal guy. And I'm going to completely reverse course and say that does not apply to Alex Ovechkin, who's 6 years older than Chris Kreider. The reason why I say that is that no player, arguably in NHL history, has defied the aging curve the way Ovechkin has. Maybe Gordie Howe, Sidney Crosby's right there as well, but this is almost Tom Brady level stuff. Mm-hmm. The way Ovi has managed to still be an elite scorer so late into his career. And I know people will say, hey, last year we were almost off the bandwagon. He had 8 goals in his first 43 games. That's true, but he had 23 in his final 36. That's the more recent sample size. So we know he still has it in him. And Washington was very busy adding more help around him. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Mangiapane, Jacob Chychrun. I think they're committed to, yes, being more competitive, but they also really want to get this record. He's 42 goals away. He can taste it. So I lean slightly toward Ovechkin having the better year than Kreider, even though I know I'm contradicting myself because, of course, Ovechkin is a power forward too, but we have to understand that you can't understand the aging curve when it comes to Alex Ovechkin. He is completely singular in NHL history.
The Russian machine don't break. All right. It just doesn't. I think I'm going to take Ovechkin here too. We're going to agree on this one, but I've been pretty vocal this offseason just about fading Ovechkin in fantasy this year. I think that, I'm interested to get your take on this. I think he's going to be deprioritized a little bit in Washington. I feel like, yes, he's defied the age, rate-related decline in the way that he's still scoring goals, but he's put out there in positions to do that. I think his defensive game, his two-way game has fallen off a cliff, like to the point that he's actively hurting the Capitals a little bit when he's out there in terms of that, right? Like obviously he's not the same type of rush player that he used to be, where he's, we've all seen the highlights. He kind of just goes in, he's shooting low percentage shots. He's still getting a ton of shots, but the high danger, it's not high danger stuff, right? Plus he just can't skate. Right. So I feel like Washington going out and getting all these guys and like PLD, Mangiapane, Jacob Chikrin, Matt Roy, they want to win, and they want to win now. So yes, I still feel like Ovechkin's going to get every opportunity to get this goal record. But there were times last year that he wasn't even getting out at 3-on-3 overtime. They weren't putting him out there, right? Because they're trying to win games. And yeah, I'm low on Ovechkin. Like, this is a guy we were picking in the second round last year. I think around here, like round 5 Ovechkin, that's where I'm into it. Because obviously he's still a shot monster. Like, we know what Ovechkin does, and what you said totally holds water there. He's going to be amazing on the power play as well. And I think 30 goals is probably in the wheelhouse here. I've got him for 67 points. I got Chris Kreider for 69. So it's a nice total. But I lean Ovechkin here as well because he shoots a hell of a lot more than Chris Kreider. He hits more than Chris Kreider. And this all said too, Chris Kreider is like, he might be the best net front player in the league. Like, I love that about Chris Kreider, and his floor is insanely solid because of his access to the New York power play. But yeah, to me, I wanted to bring Ovechkin in here because I have been talking, not yang on the man. He's a legend, but I'm fading him in fantasy. I'm not interested. This is about the point where I'm looking to pick up Ovechkin. I don't know. What do you think about what do you think about the take that Ovechkin might get deprioritized a little bit, and maybe his ice time could go down?
I think it's possible. And like you said, especially because of his mobility issues, he's not nearly as versatile. Not that he ever was characterized as super versatile, but maybe, when he was winning a Conn Smythe trophy, that was probably the peak of his versatility as a player, maybe the most complete that he's ever been. Right now, yes, I think it's possible. You see him not being used in all situations. And I agree that there's a case to be made for fading him. I have him as my number 56 overall player. So if you're in a 12-team league, right, that would be late in the fifth round, right?
Yep.
Or late 4th round, I guess that would be, right? Which to me feels about right. But the one thing I'll push back on is the notion that the Capitals are prioritizing winning over this record. If you look, zoom out in 30 years, what's going to matter more to this franchise? Having the greatest goal scorer of all time, having the record? Or, hey, remember in 2024-25 when we had 93 points and made the first round and lost? No one's going to care about that. No one's going to remember that. And I think this franchise knows they want to hang their hat on this goal record as much as Ovechkin does. That is the priority. They'll never admit it, but I 100% feel that it is.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a really interesting take, because I thought it would be the other way. But I mean, you're plugged into what's going on here. Like that's an interesting piece there, because I know they're going to give Ovechkin every chance, but just the fact that they brought in all these players, like, it should technically help Ovechkin. Like, you got a guy like PLD who hopefully gets power play 1. That's a guy I'm actually somewhat high on this year. Not high, but I think he's going to get back to his 60-point ways. Like, Ovechkin didn't have, he was the only threat on the power play last year. So, the other team could just focus on Ovechkin, leave everybody open, and it wasn't even an issue. Whereas now I think you got PLD, you got Mangiapane who can do stuff there, and, just some different pieces. So that should potentially help him. But yeah, I don't know. That's goes against what I thought was going to happen. So that's an interesting piece. I'll think about that, because yeah, you're right. For legacy purposes, that is something that would stand the test of time. No one's going to beat Ovechkin's record when he gets it. No one. I can't, I don't think Matthews will. Like, I just don't see anybody touching that record, doing it as long as Ovechkin did. So shout out to him. But yeah, interesting thoughts. So yeah, we're both taking Ovechkin there. Anywho, let's move on. All right, we're in round 9, and we're looking at picking up some D. We got to pick up some defensemen here, maybe our second or third D man. We've got a couple guys, potential power play 1 quarterbacks, John Carlson and Shea Theodore at pick 112. Who do you like out of these guys, Matt?
Well, this is an interesting one because I can really see the argument for either player. Okay, so if you look at Shea Theodore, he's a younger player, and on a per game basis, he's been the more productive player recently. But the thing is with Shea Theodore, he's always banged up, and you're pretty much never at this point getting a full season out of him anymore. So you have to price that in. He might be scoring at a 72-point pace, but you're going to get a 50-point player because he's going to play 55 games, something like that, right? And John Carlson, it's interesting. I talked to him about this last week at the Player Media Tour. He had a really scary injury when he got hit by a puck in the head 2 years ago. But last year he comes back, plays all 82 games. And he attributed that to not rushing back and making sure he really felt safe. There was still a little bit of mental hurdles to get over just to feel safe out there, but he did it.
Yeah.
He still managed a 52-point season, even though he's in his early 30s. And he actually had a career high in average time on ice last year. And you could argue, wait, okay, Washington brings up Jacob Chychrun. He could be a threat, even though he shoots from the other side, but still he plays the right side sometimes. Ovechkin plays the point of the power play too, or the half wall. So Chychrun could be a threat to John Carlson's power play time. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think we could get a fresher John Carlson. A little reduction in ice time could be a good thing for him. And I want to go back to something that the late, great Mike Bossy told me. And it was something I was working on about Alex Ovechkin, but Bossy, who obviously is an authority on power play, explained to me that John Carlson was so important to that power play because he is, and you mentioned Blake, they're not being a threat other than Ovi, but maybe that's true among the forwards, but Carlson is a threat as a shooter, as another right-handed shooter, so you can't completely key on Ovi. And as Bossy explained, that's why Ovi, and people always say, how is he open when he gets his big one-timer? Because they have to respect John Carlson. So he's still a very important part of that power play. He's still going to be a key cog. He's proven to be very durable, aside from that freak accident. And I think he's going to get the superior volume to Shea Theodore, so I lean toward John Carlson, even though he's the older player.
Yeah, I love that take. I got to take Carlson here too. To me, in a bubble, I think Theodore is the better offensive player for fantasy, right? Not in real life, but Carlson obviously brings a lot of intangibles and acumen and also experience. But to me, Theodore is the better fantasy defenseman, but I'm concerned about his deployment. You got Noah Hannafin in town there, and he's a guy that's got, he's signed to a contract, he's signed to term, whereas Theodore he's going to be UFA after this year. So, that was an interesting signing to me when they locked down Hannafin there, because they also had Hannafin on power play one towards the end of the year. He was getting all the power play one reps. He got the power play one reps in the playoffs. So, I think it should be Theodore. Theodore should get it over Hannafin, but that's kind of making me think those two things, that Hannafin might get the first crack at power play one there, whereas I don't think Carlson has any competition. I know that Chychrun's there, and Chychrun is a legit power play one defenseman. It really pissed me off when the Washington Capitals signed him for fantasy, because I'm like, get Chychrun on a team where he can just run the power play. Like, we're looking at a 60-point guy here with 20 goals. But no, we're going to have to wait on that Chychrun breakout. But I think Carlson is good to go. And I love that little piece there, just talking to him and sort of, the way he approaches the game, because obviously he's a pretty cerebral player. And I think he had a down season last year. Washington was awful in terms of, for fantasy, right? Lowest, goal differential of any team going into the playoffs. That's insane. Ovechkin had a down year. We all know that. And they just didn't have any horses there at Washington. But now, they've injected a bunch of good talent. I like the moves that Washington made. I like Matt Roy a lot. I think that's an amazing trade in reality, and that should free up a guy like John Carlson to do a little bit more offensively, right? So this all said, I've got John Carlson for I don't even have my things up here, 61 points, and I got Theodore for 61 points. So I just think Carlson has a little bit of a ceiling there. I think we've seen it before. I think he's going to bounce back, and I love too that he's attached to Ovechkin, and like you said, they're trying to get Ovechkin this goal record, and Carlson's going to be a big piece of that. So that's I'm with you there, my man. I think these guys are both going to be 60-point defensemen, but I could see Theodore at another team, by the end of the year. I don't know, where are you at with Theodore? Do you think they'll re-sign him there in Vegas? And what do you think about his power play one aspirations?
Yeah, I mean, with Vegas, nothing is ever guaranteed. This is the most ruthless team in the NHL, and they literally let their Conn Smythe Trophy winner walk.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And they traded away Logan Thompson. They traded Marc-Andre Fleury when he was the active reigning Vezina Trophy winner. Nothing applies in terms of the logic of loyalty in Vegas. So I think they always want to chase the next shiny new thing, and I don't believe that Jay Theodore will be high priorities, because I do agree that they seem to be committing to Noah Hannafin. They paid him the big money. They're giving him the minutes. He's the younger player as well. So to me, I think Theodore is secondary, and I'm not saying he's going to be an in-season trade candidate, because I think Vegas will be a playoff team. They'll need him, but I could see them treating him like an in-season rental, and he'll look for greener pastures next summer, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's too bad, because Theodore, he's a little bit of, it just seems like untapped potential. Like his career high is 52 points. That was in 2021-22, 14 goals that season. Really nice. You can obviously see the talent this guy has, but yeah, he has trouble staying healthy. So hopefully we get a healthy year out of Theodore. Maybe he can smash the 60 points. I don't know. But I'm taking John Carlson all day, and I feel good about that. All right. Now, we got to get some goalies, Matt. We faded goalies appropriately. All right. We did the right thing. We're going 0G. And now we're staring at Tristan Jarry or Charlie Lindgren. Another Washington Capital we're talking about here, but yeah, I didn't plan that, but that's what's happening. So yeah, Tristan Jarry or Charlie Lindgren, both kind of similar situations, don't they?
Yes, definitely. And they both have pretty stiff competition. But it's interesting because Jerry is sort of the veteran getting pushed. And I think Lindgren last year was pushing the veteran. Now, maybe you could argue it's been reversed for him with Logan Thompson coming to town. Tristan Jarry obviously has the longer track record of success. He does have competition. Alex Nedeljkovic, who really overtook him late last season. I still think Pittsburgh opens the season committing to Jarry as the starter. Charlie Lindgren's interesting because he doesn't have nearly as big of a sample size of success, but he did overtake Darcy Kemper. He led the NHL in shutouts. He was a league winner for a lot of people last year. He was so good down the stretch. I think he was the most important player for Washington in terms of helping them overcome that bad goal differential. So I do think even though they've brought Logan Thompson in, I think that Lindgren gets the first crack at the starter's job. It's his to lose. And I think he plays on a better team. Going back to Matt Roy, I think is a really important addition for Washington. One of the best shutdown defensemen in the NHL. I expect the Capitals to be just in general a better defensive club this year. So the quality of chances that Lindgren faces might not be as high. The workload might be a bit easier. I think Jerry probably has more upside for volume. He's more likely to start 50-plus games. But I still lean slightly toward Charlie Lindgren. I could be convinced otherwise.
Yeah. Both these goalies to me are kind of being left for dead. You know what I mean? It's like, what have you done for me lately? Like you said, Charlie Lindgren literally won people their leagues last year. This guy's incredible. Whereas Jarry, yeah, I mean, it's a guy that we drafted with confidence at the beginning of last year. And then Nedeljkovic just takes all the starts when the games were on the line, when the season was on the line. That was, disheartening to see for sure if you were a Tristan Jarry owner. That said, to me, I'm taking Tristan Jarry here because I feel like there's a bit more stability in the starts. Like I'm prioritizing the starts as opposed to the rate stats, which I think Charlie Lindgren would win there. I can't see with the contract and term that Jarry has, and they only just signed Nedeljkovic for a 2-year deal for 2 point whatever. I can't see them going back to the well there. I think this is both Tristan Jarry's and Charlie Lindgren's spot to lose, but I'm a little bit more concerned about Logan Thompson in Washington than I am Nedeljkovic in Pittsburgh. But, that said too, both these team environments stunk. Washington had an expected goals against it was 25th in the league. Pittsburgh was 26th. I mean, that show ain't no good, guys. When I'm drafting goalies, I'm looking for goalies on a team that's going to be good. And when I'm looking at Pittsburgh too, there's so many reasons I think Pittsburgh's going to bounce back. And it doesn't have anything to do with, injecting new people into the lineup the way Washington did. I think Pittsburgh just underachieved massively, especially on the power play. What the hell was that? You got the best players in the league, some of the best players in your league, one of the best offensive defensemen ever, quarterbacking your power play. And it was 31st in the league. No, I don't see that happening again. Maybe I'm not saying it's a wagon, but even if they go to a middle of the pack, 15th overall in the league, that's gonna make a huge difference, right? They would have made the playoffs if their power play wasn't so stinky. So I think that there's a little bit more regression there for Pittsburgh positively, but Washington did improve a lot for sure. But I don't know. There's a lot of variance there. You throw all these new guys in, they have to learn how to play with each other. I think it's going to be good, but I'm not sure. So do you see both these teams making the playoffs this year, Matt?
I do not. And I'm definitely going to disagree with you on Pittsburgh. I'm completely in the other camp. I think the arrow is pointing way down. And I agree, of course, the power play, it's due for positive regression. But what about the health regression that could loom for Jenny Malkin, Chris Letang? I'm pretty sure they both played 82 games, if I'm not mistaken. Erik Karlsson was healthy last year as well. Those are all players with really detailed injury histories. They're all well into their 30s. I think you have to factor in that they're going to miss time. It's very, very likely. Sidney Crosby's still scoring more than 90 points as he's in his age 37 season. He's still going to remain an elite player, but it's possible he regresses a bit. And you take this team that didn't make the playoffs and you added nothing. Cody Glass, Kevin Hayes. Come on, Kyle Dubas. What have you done? This team has no chance to make the playoffs. I actually think the Pittsburgh Penguins are a sleeper to be one of the worst teams in the NHL. If anything happens to Sid in particular, you can't be placing all your eggs in the basket of Rutger McGroarty, who's a great prospect, but we don't know if he's going to make the team. We don't know what impact he'll have as a rookie. Meanwhile, the Capitals have been actively adding lots of pieces to a team that already made the playoffs. So I agree you're going to see more volume from Jerry, but you might still get more wins in a smaller sample size from Charlie Lindgren, because I think Pittsburgh is going to stink this year. I'm willing to go out on a limb, and maybe it's a hot take. I think they're going down. I think they're missing the playoffs again.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying holds water. It makes sense. One of the things that I'm taking from what you're saying there is you do bake in some injury stuff there, and that's an interesting conversation because I don't really do that. I mean, unless it's a player like Mark Stone or something or so like a significant injury to the same body part over and over again. You know what I mean? Like even with Crosby and the concussions, there was a while there where I'm like, I'm not touching that because he's still working his way through that, but he's been able to stay healthy now. But I'm not too concerned about injury stuff for this team. I mean, Carlson's played 2 straight seasons, like doing really well. Malkin's doing, obviously there's decline there, but to me, and this might be a hot take, but like, I think Malkin has a bit more value, and I'm not drafting him over Ovechkin. Like, I feel like Ovechkin has declined more than Malkin. It's just Ovechkin gets much more opportunity, and he's a different type of player. Like, he's a big time shooter, where Malkin is not so much that. He's becoming more of a distributor in his old age. The guy's 38. I'm 44. I could have babysat Evgeny Malkin. This is terrible. But yeah, and I still really trust Crosby. Again, too, Crosby and Ovechkin, that's an interesting conversation because I feel like Crosby has adapted. He's adapted his game to stay relevant in today's NHL, whereas Ovechkin has not. To me, Ovechkin is very basic, and he's just got one tool, and that tool is elite. And, his players, they kind of play around him and get him the puck in situations that work. Whereas Crosby is just, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Crosby. I think I've got him for 90 this year as well, but I don't see how they can be as bad as they were last year. I think there's some positive regression coming for a lot of these players. I've got Brian Rust for a big season at like 69 points. I think that's going to be good. Michael Bunting, the bunt cake. I think he's going to be a nice little sleeper. So yeah, I'm interested to revisit this because I think it could go either way. Like, I think I'm a bit more positive. I have a more positive outlook for Pittsburgh, whereas you don't. So I think it's a good conversation though. I like that. All right. You're taking Lindgren. I'm taking Jari. Oh, you know what I've been doing all off season here when I have differing takes with people, like Nate especially. I'm doing tattoo battles, like, and only one person has taken me up on this. It's like, okay, we'll do a take, and like one of our listeners in our Apples and Chinos Discord, him and I, we got a little tattoo battle going on, and it's he's in a league with me. So whoever places higher has to get, the other person has to get a tattoo of, like he'll get cream of the crop. That's what's going to happen. He's going to get cream of the crop, or I would have to get like this. His name is Big Dipper. And I have to get like this excavator, like dipping a ruffled chip in some ranch dressing. So yeah. Anyways, if you're interested in that, we can do a Charlie Lindgren, Tristan Jari. We can take that offline, Matt. No problem there. It's fine. I can get tattoos. I'm just covered anyway. So that's fine. Anyways, I'm rambling on. Matt, I apologize about this. All right. It's our last battle here. We got to talk sleepers. And we've got a couple guys here just as a late round flyer on some defensemen here. This is something that I like to do in my drafts, is like, if you can find a potential like number one power play defenseman or a power play defenseman late with your last pick, it's something I like to try and do. And I've got two guys here that have some potential for some power play time with their respective teams, Jake Walman or Bowen Byram. Who are you taking out of these guys? This is a deep cut.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Jake Walman, Blake, because I update my top 300, give or take, once a week. And I had already noted that I wanted to add Jake Walman because he was not in my top 300. He's on my bubble, but I've been thinking about it, and I agree that he does have a good opportunity as a veteran to get some power play one duty. He has proven to be a goal scoring defenseman, and I think San Jose could be a little underrated in terms of their fantasy viability when you have Tyler Toffoli added to the mix, and of course Will Smith, Malcolm Celebrini. They could be okay. But that said, if you're betting on talent, I actually don't think it's close. I think Bowen Byram's floor, when healthy, is Jake Walman's ceiling. Byram is quite a few years younger. He has shown the ability to be a combo meal type of player and fill the stat sheet. His opportunity went way up after he went to Buffalo last year. For him, it's just about staying healthy, which is a big if. I will admit that. But I think if he does, he's capable of finally putting it all together and delivering something like a 10-goal, 50-point season. I don't think Walman can get that high. I think Walman's ceiling is much lower. Not in goals and blocks. Those are two good categories for him, but I think Byram does more things better. He's on a better team as well. Not that Buffalo is a world beater, but I think we'd all agree they're a better team than the San Jose Sharks. They have better overall fantasy assets in that environment as well. So I expect that Byram will be the superior fantasy player. That said, I do see the sleeper value in both.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. And like I was kind of hemming and hawing, like even right up to now, like I'm listening to you talk about Byram. I'm like, all right, that's a good point. Yeah. Like, because I think Byram has more ways to get fantasy value. He has more outs to actually get production. Whereas Jake Walman, like we're kind of betting on him to be that power play one quarterback and also to succeed there, right? Like I projected Jake Walman for 38 points. I projected Bowen Byram for 40 points. So they're really close. I gave Walman 15 of those points on the power play, whereas Bowen Byram, I gave him 6. Right. So and because of that, I've chosen Jake Walman because I think he has a chance at top power play deployment. And, but again, this is a sleeper, right? So we're not like putting all our eggs in this basket. We're just like, you know what? I got one more pick. I'm going to take a ride. And for me, that's going to be with the guy that has the best chance at getting some power play production. And, Jake Walman, his power play points, career high 4. All right. He's had 4 power play points. Great job. Bowen Byram, his career high 6. All right. So this is what you call the bottom of the barrel, folks. But, like you said, and I absolutely agree with it, Byram is a superior player. I trust Byram a little bit more, but I think the opportunity kind of goes towards Jake Walman. And I'm interested to see what happens there. Also, Jake Walman blocks a hell of a lot of shots. And now he's on San Jose. He's going to block even more. Like he could get 200 blocks, right? So if you're in a league with any kind of block weighting, like this he's going to be a block party, no question. He's going to gritty his ass off all over center ice. I don't even know. You know what the gritty? You've seen this man do the gritty, right, man?
I mean, I'm a Justin Jefferson owner in fantasy, so I'm very familiar with the gritty, especially last week, 97-yard TD, baby. I have Sam Darnold as well. But no, I agree. And I think you make some really good points. And even just, I was just pulling up, I wanted to look at the power play deployment of Buffalo just for a refresher. And you do have Tage Thompson with that great one-timer on the point, and Rasmus Dahlin's on the point. So it's true, Byram is not going to displace either of those guys on PP1. So Walman does have a much easier path to get there. It's really just a matter of, in terms of 5-on-5 play, betting on the talent. And I do think Byram still has the talent to be a top end fantasy defenseman. It's just a matter of, can he finally just get through a whole season, play even 75 games and just play 23 minutes a game, get significant minutes, give us that true sample size so we can finally see what he can do, as opposed to always talking about what he's on pace for, which is what I do every year.
That's so true. I mean, that's what I'm looking at here. Yeah. Oh, 46-point pace, 47-point pace. And then the games played 30 and 42. Byram, come on, buddy. Like, let's get it together, my man. But the one thing I love about Byram, the guy is amazingly efficient. I mean, crazy efficiency. 15% he shot in 22-23, 13% last year in a really down season. And I think he will get some power play time there in Buffalo on the second unit. He'll get kind of that, what he got in Colorado, basically, where it's a 2D man power play on the second unit, him and Owen Power. And that's decent. He should, beat his career high of 6 by, he might get 7 or 8 power play points, right? But I think I'm low key into Walman this year. I just want to see what he's able to do. But if he doesn't work out, you kick him to the curb. Thank you for your service, and you go pick up Henry Thrun. All right, that's a deep sleeper. All right, that's when you're getting hypnotized. That's kind of the deep sleep that Henry Thrun is. I don't know where I'm going with this, Matt. I lost it, but that's our battle, my man. We did it. I don't know who won. I feel like you smashed me again, buddy. Why do you do this to me?
Well, you know what's funny? If I were to describe this battle, I feel like I think you were Clubber Lang actually in the end, because I think you came out strong and I was taking a beating the first couple rounds, but I do feel like I may have turned the tide in the end. So you've been bamboozled all this time. You were Clubber Lang and I was Rocky Balboa. Surprise.
It actually is Rocky 3. Yeah, we just had the roles mixed up, and this hurts. All right. What did Clubber Lang do after Rocky 3 anyway? Did you just retire? I mean, that's not a good story. Like he's a strong man. Like just go train and then, kick Rocky's ass. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he never came back. We never heard from him again. He got passed by Drago in the rankings, and that was it. Tommy Gunn eventually too. And Never, maybe Creed 4 can be Clubber Lang's son or whatever if they're going to keep going back to that well.
Yeah, you know what? We need the original Mr. T back in here too. I mean, what are we doing? Like, you got Stallone, like bring Mr. T. Let's just redo that whole thing. Anyways, Matt, that's neither here nor there. But it was a pleasure having you on the show as always. I want to give you the floor here just to plug whatever you want to plug, and also maybe if you can just let our listeners know what they can expect from you and DailyFaceoff.com throughout the season.
Absolutely, Blake. I appreciate it. In terms of fantasy content, I'm learning how to speak. Apparently, I'm continuously updating the top 300. And now that we have training camp starting, the updates are going to be much more frequent, much more detailed. So we're really getting into the nitty gritty now of draft season. So watch for those updates. I will also have breakout picks coming later in the draft season as well. And of course, league-wide coverage. We're previewing every NHL team every weekday leading up to the start of the season, and Daily Faceoff Live, our daily show, every weekday at noon. That's going to be coming back in a few weeks, and it'll run every weekday all the way until July at the end of free agency, starring our president of hockey content, the insider himself, Frank Saravelli.
I love it. I love Daily Faceoff, man. I use it every day. It's a great resource, and I love the stuff that you're pumping out here. And I miss you in this space, man, this podcast space. I know Puck Poolies is are you guys taking a break, or is that done?
I think that it's done at the moment because we have Brock Sagan, our DFO fantasy editor, who's also, by the way, building our draft kit. That'll be coming out soon. Great stuff. We just felt like we had one fantasy show. We didn't need two. So Steven and I, we will be back, but in a different capacity soon enough.
You bet. Love that legend, Stephen Ellis, and yourself as well. You guys are doing amazing work. So thank you so much for making some time for us here, Matt. Really appreciate that. And thank you, listeners, for your service and for checking us out here at Apples and Ginos. The content train continues. We got stuff popping off all over the place. We're going to have some ADP values and reaches coming out in the next couple days and some other stuff too. So stick around. Really appreciate it. But until then, celebrate your day. Bye for now.